Listen. Every day, all day.
This is how we roll.
This is 97.9, the BOX.
Good morning. Good morning, Terry.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm up. It's early.
It is early. It is early. Yes.
Yes, the rappers, we're up all night.
Yeah, right.
This is our night.
Yeah. It's funny because when we decided to move this online, I was trying to figure out a time, and this is, when everything with COVID, everybody was going home, and so Instagram was crowded, and so I was like, what time? And I said, I'm gonna do it at 8 in the morning, and my team was like, we're gonna do the business behind the music at 8 in the morning. I was like, yeah, because if you really want to be serious about the game, you'll get up and you'll be here for it, and I found that actually to be the case. So it's worked out pretty well.
Very true. Very true. The early bird gets the worm.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and set the stage. We've got people tapping in. So if you are here this morning, you are here for the business behind the music. I'm Terry Thomas. I'm the operations manager for Radio 1 here in Houston, which means that I program 97.9 The Box, Magic 102.1, our pop station, which is Radio Now 92.1, and we also have our online inspiration, Praise Houston. And this series is to really dive in deep about the business behind the music. So we're just trying to help people grow in the game, whether it's learning about careers in the music business, learning about different things about being an artist or producer, or just somebody who's trying to elevate in the game, or just someone who's trying to be an influencer and just be in entertainment as well. So my guest today, I'm super excited. I have Shawnna here. I would say back in the day, First Lady of DTP, always will have that title. Yes. But it comes from a musical family and a true pioneer and legend in her own right, and has a new project coming up. So it'll be a great conversation, I think, to talk about the music business then and your perspective on the music business now, and, just get some great nuggets for you. So good morning and welcome.
Absolutely, Terry. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And first of all, congratulations to you. You are a woman of many hats.
Yes, including this one.
And I love it. I'm loving the whole swag right now. I'm loving it.
Thank you. We had to, women, we got to figure it out. So when we all had to go home and work from home, I was like, okay, well, we have a studio sponsor. We appreciate the business because it's helping to keep the lights on. So what am I going to do? I actually went to Etsy and ordered a hat. And I was like, oh, the logo will be in the video. So we'll
I love it.
Sponsor. Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
Plus, it also helped when the hairdressers weren't working, couldn't get a haircut. So I was like, this is going to work just fine.
You know what? I give up. I'm used to it now. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Take me as I am.
Exactly. So let's go back a little bit and let's just talk about maybe the early part first, and then we'll sort of bring things up to date. But talk a little bit about your initial journey into the music business.
Well, I started out very young. I knew exactly what I wanted to do at about 16 years old. I just started finding a love for hip hop, a love for rap, and admiration for Queen Latifah and Salt and Pepper and De La Soul and Moni Love and things like that. And I was just like, I think this is what I want to do. Even an earlier influence with my father being in the blues, I was like, okay, this is amazing, but it didn't speak to me like hip hop did. So I started to record raw bass. It Takes Two. I took my cassette tape player right next to the TV, and I would record his entire song and learned it word for word. And honestly, Terry, once I did that, I don't know what happened. I was able to write my own raps. Once I wrote down and got how he had line for line and how it rhymed, I was able to write my own rap. So I started then. I was in the high school hallways creating ciphers with the other aspiring artists. I would go to any type of event that I was allowed to get inside because I was only a teenager, of course. So we're talking about like Essence Weekend, Black Women's Festivals, things like that, the subway, outside, downtown, the Taste of Chicago, anything like that I got a chance to get people's attention and let them know that I wanted to be a rapper and I could rap, I would do it. So to fast forward to when I graduated from high school, about 3 months later, I was in New York at Relativity Records negotiating my recording contract for Infamous Syndicate. Yes, it happened that fast. Mom and dad was like, so no college. And I was like, no. I want to do this. This is my dream. I have this opportunity. I want to take it. And I did. And it's been like the rest has been history ever since. I was with Relativity Records for about 2 years.
Mm.
Some of the greatest times ever. My friend Latifah Harland and I, or what the group consisted of, and the biggest thing that we did was we dropped our album, Changing the Game, with Relativity Records, and that's where people know the song Here I Go, and
Yeah.
Kanye West was one of the producers on the
Yes.
album. We also worked with No ID and Common Sense. Amazing. And we landed a slot on the Lyricist Lounge tour. While we were doing that, we went through Atlanta and we had to do radio promo. That's when Ludacris was Chris Lova Lova at
Yeah.
Hot 97. And when he interviewed us, he and I just connected and we exchanged information. And by the time he called me and said, look, I got this song, I want you to get on the hook for me, which was What's Your Fantasy? Ultimately, I was out of the deal with Infamous Syndicate. And he was like, yo, I'm starting my label. I really want you to be down. How do you feel about that? And I was like, it's a go. I would love to. And like the rest is literally history.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
I do want to touch a little bit on your dad because I think it's important to reference like your musical family, right? So, uh,
Absolutely. Thank
right.
you.
So your dad is a legend, blues guitarist, Buddy Guy.
Yes.
The accolades. If you don't know, hit the Googles because like I'm a person who loves music across the board. So definitely, as my friend would say, hit the Googles. But absolute legend in the game. And I love your comment when you said your parents were like, "What? No college?" Because one would think, musical family, follow in the footsteps. So what was that sort of vibe like with your dad being such a music person, and then here you are trying to go your own way but in the music business?
Well, at home, he was dad. He never brought the superstar Buddy Guy into the house. He never sat me down and said, hey, this is how you play the guitar. This is what you need to do. This is the music industry. Never. He always let my siblings and I decide what we wanted to do. He always let us bump our own heads, make our own
Mhm.
decisions, make mistakes. Now, he would advise, but he
Yeah.
wouldn't dictate, so to speak. In the house, he was, dad, do your homework. Is your room clean? Don't do this. Don't do that. Is this the type of woman that you want to be? When you get to teenage years and you want to sneak out and hang out and do stuff with your friends, he would just ask me, is that the type of woman you want to be? Is that the type of reputation that you want to have? And to this day, that resonates with me. Like, as I still go out into the world, I carry myself in a manner to whereas my integrity means the most. Foremost, that's my integrity means the most. So I make decisions based on what makes me feel good and not what makes other people feel good.
And
So
so that really came from your parents, you think?
absolutely. 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 My mom was actually the one who invested in me first.
Okay.
Mom was like, so I'm paying all this money for you to be in this college preparatory high school,
Right.
and you want to rap. He didn't really understand, like, hip hop was just kind of just getting the movement. It wasn't as huge as it is now. So he was
Sure.
kind of like, I don't want my baby girl involved in that. That was
Right.
one of his things until he found out, the magnitude that hip hop had, the statement that it made in the music industry. Then he kind of got aboard and was like, oh, this is like us. This is like the blues of the industry.
Right.
It's speaking from the hood. It's speaking
Yeah.
from the story. It's speaking from the heart. It's speaking from the climate of the urban, the inner city. And he totally understood and totally supported me. MTV had grabbed him before and asked him on an interview, how do you feel about your daughter singing about getting some head? And he laughed and he made references to how raunchy and how
Yeah.
prudent that blues music is, and that was my influence. So it really didn't bother him at all. Like
Right.
it just was our version of what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah,
Truth. I mean, I think that it's hip hop in its purest form is modern day blues to me as
absolutely.
well, because for the very same reason that you're saying, you know, the whole point of the blues, or what the blues meant culturally, was really, it was telling the stories of real people, the love, the heartbreak, the angst, the joy, the fun, the all of it. And
Absolutely.
you know, so it was storytelling. And then, you know, hip hop in at its best is the same thing. It's telling the story of the people. And
Yes.
so, you know, I could see that sort of being married. Besides integrity, what else? What are a couple other key things that you think that you really got from your parents that helped set you on your way? Like
Um,
principles.
just just to be aware of um, my finances, just being
Hmm.
aware of the importance of good credit, the importance of paying your taxes on time, the importance of saving money and not just splurging on everything because that's what people want to see you do.
Right.
The importance of family, putting
Yeah.
family first, and the importance of having something to fall back on. And I think that was the main reason they pushed college. They wanted me to have some sort of degree or some sort of job that I could fall back on, because he knows how the industry goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. 1 minute you're hot, 1 minute you're not. And that's just the industry. And I think more artists and parents all together need to make sure that when you have a child or a teenager, adolescent, whatever, that is leaning towards going into the industry, they need to understand the importance of a safety net
Yeah.
because of the 15 minutes of fame, so to speak.
Literally, if you can even get that. I liken, you know, I often make this analogy to like sports, right? So, you know,
Hmm.
everybody's not going to be a Tom Brady in the game, right? You know, you're going to
Right.
have people you're just going to get your couple years, your one song, couple songs. It's going to be a moment for you in the scope of your entire life. And then
Yeah.
what you're going to do with that moment to make sure that, you know, that you can set yourself up for something else. And so,
Absolutely. Absolutely. He made a reference one day and he was like, because I was like, Dad, you know, hip hop is nothing like the blues. I see him selling multiple platinum records and winning Grammys and the reception all over the world. And it's like, I'm
yeah,
just like out here fighting to get to that point. And I'm just like, Dad, what is it? You know, I put my whole heart and soul into it. And just like you, I've patterned myself after you, but why hasn't it like happened at that level, just like you? And he was just like, well, you know, my dad, he is an old man from the country. He always keeps it cut and dry.
yeah,
Even if he's baby girl, he just gonna still keep it real. So look at Michael Jordan and
yeah,
look at his kids, you know,
yeah,
and look at a lot of some of these top athletes and superstars and their children. A lot of them aren't able to fill those shoes. It's just that's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? You got to go out and fill your own shoes.
right.
I can't be him. I can't expect to receive his accolades or his level of success. I have to go out and receive my own. And once he kind of put it to me like that, I was like, you're right. Because we do look at Michael Jordan's son and like, oh my God, I know he gonna carry the torch. He gonna be just like Mike. And he
I mean,
wasn't.
that's a lot of pressure,
It
right? Yeah,
is. Oh my God, it's so much pressure. So when he kind of put it to me like that, it was like a weight lifted off. It was like, you're right. I don't have to live up to your name and your success. All I have to be is who I am and continue to live in the blessing that I was given for myself.
do you think from the industry perspective, because of who your dad is and that rich musical legacy from him, do you think that some, you know, people in the industry, I'm talking industry, record people and so forth, put maybe, you know, try to put some pressure on you in that way? It's like, oh, your dad is so and so, so this means. Or I always felt for you in particular as an MC and as an artist, although your dad is who he is, you really always tried to carve your own way. Was there pressure to try to lean on your dad's legacy to create even more notoriety for you when you were getting started? Because you're just such an independent person trying to carve your own path.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, no, Terry, honestly, because it took a while for people to put the two and two together. You know, our generation is so far away from the blues that
Right.
that's more of your grandmother or great grandmother's music, that they're
Hmm.
unaware of him. So until I started to put him on my albums
Right.
and speak of him in interviews, and he would do the same, people had no idea that he was my dad. So it
Hmm.
really was never any pressure. And then by the time I had kind of created this lane for myself and people knew that wow, Shawnna is really something else. You know, have you ever seen her perform? Have you heard her
Yeah.
rap on RPM? As she keeps up with Twista, and I just created my own like ahs and oohs. They were like, oh, it makes sense. No wonder.
Right.
Oh, we see where you get it from. You know, it was more
Okay.
kind of like that.
More after the fact.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Awesome. So I love, sort of the path into everything, and I mean, I could see all the comments. Everybody's like, "Oh, well, so there was a lot of success there." And then there's sort of been what we would call maybe a more quiet time in recent years. So what have you been doing during this, sort of quiet time on the music side of things? Because I know your life is not quiet. I mean, you're a successful person in other ventures. So what have you been doing sort of in the interim time?
Well, I have to be honest. Growing up in a musical family, I was able to see the ugly side at a very young age. I was able to see that when my dad would need to back away and just come home and cook and mow the lawn,
Yeah.
or just watch television, just enjoy the simple things that he likes to do for himself. And it got to a point in the industry, like a lot of people want to think that me stepping away had to do with Disturbing the Peace or Def Jam or T-Pain or however, because I left it open for people to just speculate anyway. But it was not. It just was. Just being a woman in the industry is hard enough itself. Just it is. And on top of that, being a mother in the
Right.
industry doubles and triples the obstacles and things that you have to deal with. And it got to a point to whereas I felt like I couldn't be myself creatively because it was just too much else to focus on. The label, the touring, being away from home, my children's milestones that I'm missing, things that I wanted to push them into, extracurricular activities, finding out what they like to do and what they're into and what are their dreams and goals. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do this all my life. I love this.
Right.
But I love myself more than I love performing.
Right.
And if I don't take this time to get back to Shawnna,
Yeah.
I'm going to allow this industry to turn me into someone that I'm not.
Right.
And I see this with other artists, where there may be with drugs, suicide, spiraling out of control. I just felt like I owed my family more than that. So I said, I'm going to take this time to step away. Not to mention I was pregnant again with my third child.
Okay.
Let me go home. Let me be a mom. Let me fulfill those needs that I have to be a mother and have that responsibility and not have those regrets of being gone all the time. And if people really love Shawnna, they'll still be there and they'll understand that. And that is why. And that's what I've been doing. My daughter just last year graduated from high school. She's in college. I'm not a grandmother. She's not on drugs. She makes very sound decisions. I'm comfortable with the woman, the young woman that she's grown into. And that's what I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to leave that responsibility to anybody else. You know what I mean? So that was my main reason for just backing away. You know, my responsibilities and my priorities were with my children and my family more so than the music. Right. And I just hope people respected that. And I didn't want to get in a whole, thing about who did what and they did this and this is why. There's none of that. It's just me. It's just me. I just didn't want to get sucked in by the industry and turned into this brand that they wanted me to be rather than just being the artist that I was born to be.
Man, that is so powerful because, people you only see the highlight reel, Instagram highlight reel, right? Sometimes not the good highlights because, you get, all your flaws get to be magnified in, 60 seconds or 140 characters, right? In the social space. So, but that is so powerful because really for me, one of the things that bothers me a lot is seeing people less balanced that are coming into the business, and less balanced just because, shoot, they haven't grown into the person that they want to be. They haven't figured out their true identity yet. And so the business to me in a lot of ways, and it's always been young, but it's really gotten a lot younger in the sense of it. And
Yeah.
younger in terms of mentality, I think. You get a
Absolutely.
lot of people coming into the game, and all they've been seeing is the highlight reel. And so they think that's what the business is. It's the highlights. It's the videos and the pretty girls or the handsome guys with the six pack and, the shine, the bling, that get to rub elbows with these legendary people. But that's a highlight reel.
It
And,
is.
on the flip side, you can also see, like you said, artists that, you're in the business, but you're having a very difficult time coping with the responsibility of the business and
Yes.
what that means. And it's really, really, really hard. So, I commend you for
Thank
being
you.
strong and brave enough in your own truth
Yes,
that you were able
absolutely.
to make a conscientious decision and confident enough in your own gift that you said, my gift isn't going anywhere, but these kids and what I feel led to do right now is what matters.
It's
So
absolutely.
I think that's really brave.
Thank you.
And I love that you're willing to share that now, because I think that speaks to a lot of people who feel the pressure of time. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just a business that does have people feel time, right?
Yes.
We get asked a lot of time in these sessions about, the age question,
Oh yeah. Oh
are you
yeah.
too old to be in the business, or, it's all getting scaled back younger, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be. And I think that, and I'd like to hear your opinion, but I think because of the internet, and I think you coming in, just sort of coming back into the business at this point, it's going to be different. And we know that because
Yeah.
of this. Like, we weren't doing this, 10 years ago. You were at the
Right.
station, we were chopping up in person. We
Yes.
wouldn't be doing this. And
Yes.
so I think that, the internet does create vast opportunity, I think, for people to find people who rock with their art. What's your
Yes.
thought?
I totally agree. I totally agree. I hate to keep making references to my dad, but
No,
it's
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 good. Too
that's my
bad.
biggest reference, and he is 83 years old, be 84 this year. Still winning Grammy awards.
Yes.
Before COVID, he was still touring all over the world, still receiving many accolades and worldwide reception. And it's just funny that hip hop is the only genre that kind of throws you away after a certain age. Any
Yeah.
other genre of music, the artist can go on for as long as
Yes.
they want. Hip hop, after about 25, you're 80.
Right.
And they want to throw you away. So that's just motivation for me, because I know that the lane that we created in the early 2000s, and the fans and the connection that we created in the early 2000s, it's still there. I still have a love for that music. I still go back and listen to some of the artists from back then. And I know that there is a market there as well. It's just not the one that's pushed.
Right.
And it's not the one that you see every day, day to day, with the labels and the social media and things like that. But it's still there. And I think that if you produce quality music for that generation, they will come and buy it. They will need it, because we still love good music.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned earlier how just the narrative in hip hop is very young, and it is, because all you see is these very young artists, and they haven't lived long enough or experienced enough to speak the language that we know as
Right.
adults and more mature individuals. So that is the problem. They can't speak for us. They can't speak in an experience at 30 and 35 and 40 years old, because they have not lived that long. So they can only speak what they know. And it's not their fault. It's the industry. That's what the industry wants to push. It keeps getting younger and younger and younger. And that's okay. But there is still the consumer. There is still a
Yeah.
consumer there for our generation, our genre, and our age group in that genre, so to speak, that we just need to reach out to. And like you mentioned, the internet and social media is a platform to where we can manipulate that for our own benefit. And that's
Absolutely.
what I plan to do.
Good for you. I had a session recently that was pretty awesome, and for artists in here, I would recommend you go back and watch it with this guy Troy Marshall, who broke down the 28 platforms that every artist needs to be on in the online space.
Mm.
And it's interesting to see that that, you know, you can really create your own thing. And I love the point of, you know, we love hip hop, but a person who's, you know, 35 years old may not relate to the 16-year-old. Like I can
Right.
relate from a nostalgic sense, perhaps, because I remember
Yeah.
what it was like to be when, you know, 16. But at 35 years old, my life is different. So
Absolutely.
someone, you know, that like could come in and speak to where my head is at right now, and I can vibe with, like that does resonate with me, right? Because I feel like,
Yes.
you know, music to me has always been this. Music is the art form that can say what you can't say for yourself. So that's why
Yes.
I love, always love music, because of the form of expression. And so I think that there is opportunity. I think it may be different, you know, I think, but different is not bad. I think different is perfectly fine. I think the internet and allows a lot of opportunity to really happen. You just have to go out here and put yourself in places where the people that rock with your art can find you. And then you
Absolutely.
cultivate that, right? You cultivate that energy.
Yes.
And, you know, someone, you know, I love your dad's example because you're right. The blues kind of, it just keeps, people continue to find the art form, you know, and we could have the blues debate. We won't here, but we could say that, you know, he probably had even greater success, you know, over in Europe, because
Oh, he
some of
does.
the American art form, which is, you know, like the blues and all of that, um, you know, we're not, it's not as beloved here, right, as one would
Absolutely.
think. And so, but people all over the world have discovered the art form, rock with the art form, and continue to pour into the art form. You know,
Hmm.
I think for hip hop in general, we know that people grew up with hip hop, but they have grown up. So looking for people that can resonate with them and reflect their voice, I think matters. And I think that can be anywhere. And I think
Yeah.
the internet does provide that opportunity.
Yeah.
There are going to be some questions from audience. I'll pop some of those in here. I do think this is a valid question. This is going to be from the Sound of H-Town. It says, do you still believe, and this is an assumption question, so maybe you did or didn't, but do you still believe hip hop should be considered a male-dominated industry, being that we have many more successful female rappers in 2020?
I believe all of the industries, as far as television, radio, hip hop, and the list goes on, is very male dominated. I do
Mm-hmm.
agree to that, but I also see that there's been a lot of change since I was out. An example, um, when I was signed to DTP and in Def Jam, it was the tone was to have one token female in the group of
Yeah.
guys. You know, that's where you had Little Kim, Junior
Yeah.
Mafia. You had Trina with Trick Daddy. You had Remy with Terror Squad, and Eve with Rough
Rough
Riders.
Riders.
You know what I mean? And you really didn't get on, in a sense, unless you had that kind of setup. And I know for sure, me, Trina, Remy, in constant interviews, we would always talk about one day we're going to be able to see female artists on their own, doing it on their own, without being the
Mm-hmm.
token female of the clique, so to speak. And I think now today that's coming to fruition with the Cardi B's, the City Girls, the Megan Thee Stallion, and
Yeah.
forgive me, the other female artists that are out
Sure.
on their own doing their thing right now. So I salute all of the ladies in the industry right now. And I think it's just a wonderful thing. I think it's going to be a slow pace, but
Mhm.
change is being made. Is it, you know, but it is, I mean, it's a male dominated world.
It
You know, it's
is.
not just in the music industry, it's
True.
everywhere. And I think once women, and we are, I do see it happening now. Once we, you know, network and communicate amongst each other a little more and develop these outlets and opportunities amongst each other, it will spread a little more like wildfire. And we'll see that it's easier to kind of deal with our own rather than the pressures that come along with it being male dominated.
Truth. And I
Yes.
think that, you know, there it still is sometimes really, but that the industry tries to pit women against each other instead of
Oh, yeah.
celebrating, you know, because like even recently, right? And you may or not seen it, but it was all over the internet, and it was the verses with Erica Badu and Jill Scott. And a lot of the conversation of that was how much love was in the battle and how much
Yes.
two iconic women were fans of each other, celebrating each other in the battle.
Hmm.
And you know, always, well, women, we are that way, right? But a
Hmm.
lot of times the industry wants to do this with us and pit
Yes.
women against each other, you know, to create that sort of that drama. And funny thing, and you know, you may or may not be aware of this on the radio side, but this is a real truth. When I first got into radio and was learning about programming, right? The rule at the time, it totally disregard that now, but the rule at the time was you couldn't play two female artists back to back on the radio. That was a programming rule, right? When I first became in the business, and I was
I
like,
never knew that.
yeah, so like real talk. So I don't, we don't subscribe to that now. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
maybe some old school people do. I certainly don't. I'm female. If the record's a hit is a hit is a hit. People just want to hear their favorite songs, right? So,
Absolutely.
but that was an actual rule
That
in
is
in
unbelievable.
programming. Yeah, don't play two women back to back. And so, the reality, and that's not very long ago in the scheme of things. And so you think about where it was and where we are, and the fact that we're still, as women struggling to come forward in the business, but there is progress being made, and I do think the solidarity amongst women celebrating each other in the business is
Yes.
helpful. And I do think some of our male counterparts that really celebrate the talent of women stepping in the gap as well has been helpful.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
feel like more people are coming over to the side of the ladies, right? So,
Yes.
so it's been a transition. It's been a very interesting time.
It-
This is a personal question, answer or not, but what did you do to sustain yourself between the hot and cold periods? I think that speaks back to you sort of setting up something else to sustain you, when the business would be hot and cold.
Yeah, well, I just I always just grateful for blessings. We have a business here, a family business. We have a family restaurant, and here's a live music venue. And when things kind of get bad, I kind of go into there and I help my sisters manage my dad's. It's called Buddy Guys Legends. We hold it about at a 800 capacity.
Mhm.
We host live music every night, full restaurant, full bar service, and it's fun because I was able to get in and learn about a total different industry that I'm
Yeah.
interested in as well. That kind of goes right along with music. Drinks and food and music are a marriage that we all are very familiar with. So
Yes.
I love learning new things. I love learning new ways to make money. So I get caught up in that and understanding what it takes to run a business and run a restaurant and to host people and make people want to come out and spend their money with you. And it's fun to kind of get away from it. And because too much of one thing is not always good. You should always kind of spread your wings, not put all your eggs in one basket. And I just was fortunate enough to have that as a part of my family without having to go out and seek that and start, from the bottom and climb up. It's just kind of right there. And that goes back to when I said with my dad is you always want to create a safety net for yourself. You always want to have something to fall back on if this doesn't work. And that's been my fallback. And other than that, just motherhood and just making sure that I'm being the best mother that I can be, making sure my kids never have to grow up and ask me, why didn't you do this, or why weren't you there, and things like that, or why didn't you encourage me to do this, or anything like that, because I'm well aware of the ups and downs. I was able to see it at a very young age, and I don't let it break me down. I just keep up and keep going and brush myself off and keep going and figure it out.
Robin has a comment. She says, Robin says, I think as a female artist in music, you should learn the industry in and out, from distribution to engineering to styling to marketing. What's your thought on that, Shawnna?
Oh, I'm a strong advocate of that as well. I think you need to understand every aspect of what you're getting yourself into. You are a brand. You are the merchandise that you're trying to sell. So, and I make the reference of, if you are trying to be a startup company and you want to reach your optimal success, you have to hire people that are very experienced and very resourceful and have developed relationships in the industry that can help you get to that level. And as an artist, I think that you need to do that, but you also need to be aware of everything that's going on. Don't allow people to conduct your business for you. Make sure you understand every A, B, C, D step that they're doing to help your situation. I made the mistake of trusting people and allowing them to go into the meetings and just make discussions and make decisions on my behalf, or just saying, oh, I don't have time, or that's too much to read, or I don't understand the wording, but do you? Okay, yeah, you go handle that, and you make the decision for me. And that's not always good, because you're in the dark. And people have their own agendas, and it's not necessarily malice. It's just that, they have to pay their bills. They have to fulfill their needs. They have to live their dreams. And the industry conducts itself differently with different standpoints. If it's a management, if it's a road manager, if it's the artist, it's different paths that you have to take. And I think as an artist, you need to understand each and every path in order to be at your top game. You really do. So I'm definitely an advocate of knowing your contracts, not signing too many contracts. Don't legally obligate yourself to too many situations at one time. Totally understand the verbiage in your contract, because they'll put this money in front of you and that's all you see. You know, my God, I'm okay now. I'm straight. I can pay my bills. I can get a car. I can put my mama in a new house. But you don't realize you signed away 7 to 10 albums of your career with no time restriction on it or no time limit on it, and they can hold you for however many years they want to.
That's right.
And you only have 15 minutes of fame here. After, like we said earlier in the interview, after a certain age, you kind of die down and they don't want to listen to you. They start to push these newer and younger artists, but you still obligated to put so many albums out with this company when you're at a point where you feel like it's time to move on and evolve.
Right.
You know, so it's very important to understand exactly what you are legally binding yourself to.
That's truth. One of the things or questions that comes up a lot here is about building a team. I always tell people the first thing I need everybody to understand and recognize is the artist. You are the CEO of your business.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, but then I do understand the need for a team. All of us do. Like,
Oh,
to
yeah.
get to where you want to be, you got to have a team. So knowing what you know now, like, how do you approach building a team?
I just work more on my communication. Kind of just understand things are going to be frustrating and time consuming. And it's a lot of times I'm going to have to sit down and listen to stuff I don't necessarily want to, but I have to retain that information in order to be confident with moving forward.
That's true.
Because of my experience. Like we said earlier, when you grow and you learn. And when I first started it as a teenager, I trusted people through the door. If you look like a good person, I said, hey, come on with the team and let's get it. And then later down the line, you find out it's not even necessarily anything intentional. It's just that person doesn't have the experience or the knowledge to conduct the business for you in the manner that it needs to be. So you can't really fault them for it. That's the decision that you made to put that person in that position. So just learning from that is what kind of got me here with that thought process.
I mean, you know, that's why we do this series, the business behind the music, because, you know, the business part is so essential, and we all just want to get to the music part. We all want to get to the part where we're making music and we're feeling the audience and getting toured, etc.
Yes.
But if you don't button up that business part, it's going to come back and haunt you at some point. And a lot of people don't really understand the different aspects of the business, because when you really have to step back from it 30,000 feet, it is a business.
It is.
You know, there's Shawnna the artist, but there's also the woman, the CEO of that business. And so Shawnna gets to go be the artist, but there's Shawnna, who is the business, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's a lot different. Here's a really good question from the Sound of H-Town. When you got into the business, were you free to be true to yourself, or did you find the label or whoever trying to change your sound or image?
Yes, I did. When I first got in, I was very free to be myself. I was very tomboyish, very aggressive, very thuggish, you know, and that's just kind of, I grew up like that. I was always a tomboy. I played sports, you know what I mean? I like to go out and you know, play basketball, play softball, just be with the guys. You know, that's just how I was. And that kind of transitioned into my music. And I would always want to compete with the guys, because that was the conversation that I was used to, you know. And once I started signing into the Def Jams and Disturbing the Peace, we saw that women were becoming more sexual with the Trinas and the Little Kim and the Foxy Brown, and you would see more bikinis and more skin and more records that were making references to, you know, their sexuality, which I hadn't done. So a lot of times we would sit and have these meetings, and they would say, "Hey, Shawnna, can you make a record like this? You know, you got to get in there. You got to get in there. You know, this is what the radio was playing. They want to play those kind of records, because that's what the consumer is looking for." So I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So that's when we kind of came up with Getting Some Head, and I said, well, I'm always gonna make it make sense for me. So if anybody even cares, if you really listen to Getting Some Head, the only sexual references are in the hook. In the verses, I kind of just talked just swaggy. Hey, I know
Right.
you guys want a woman like me. If you got a pretty dollar, then I'll probably not look at me and my us so good. And I just don't know how to talk like that. I'm not knocking. I just don't know. I don't feel comfortable at that time speaking like that. So I just made it work for me. You can be smart and have your own ways of manipulating what they trying to force feed you, and that's what I did with that record. So it kind of kicked in the door and it got everybody's attention, and then we came behind it with a record like RPM, where I sped it up and took off, and they were like, yeah, she did that with getting some head, but did you hear this on RPM? So
Right.
you just got to be smart and make it make sense for yourself. But
I
yes,
think that's
the sexuality was definitely pushed on me.
I think that's great advice, actually. I think sometimes it is a little bit of compromise, and there's been other, and unfortunately for women, we end up having to do that more than not. But there's other examples in the business of, sort of, okay, you're sort of making some moves that they want you to make, and you're getting some
Yes.
notoriety, and then you come in there with the power play and doing what you want to do, and
Yes.
be able to do both. So coming back, well, I would say just coming forward, because I wouldn't say back, you haven't gone anywhere, but coming forward in the industry now, because I know you have, I want to talk about what you've been working on with your project.
Yes.
Let's talk about your project and how this is going to show the evolution of Shawnna.
It is, and I'm excited about it because I'm so much more mature now. I've learned from my experiences. I've had time to sit back and reflect and see where I made mistakes or where I would have done things differently, and just being a woman now, a grown woman now, on my own, independent now. I just want to be able to express that. And the reason I named the project Voodoo Child is because I have roots down in Louisiana. My father is from Lettsworth, Louisiana, which he moved at a young age to Baton Rouge. And when he turned 20 years old, he moved to Chicago and kind of planted his feet here in the music scene and just took off. But there's a heavy side of me that lives in Louisiana, my roots, my father's side of the family. As a child, we still go down there for holidays and spend time with my family there, and it's a big part of my upbringing. It's a big part of who I am as an artist, and I feel like that I've had a chance to fully express that. And I feel like with my third effort, it's perfect timing to do so, because with such a gap in between the last album and this album, I needed to make sense. I don't want to people. I'm still going to be that Shawnna. I'm still going to be that Mike murderer. Don't get me wrong. I
As
still
yes,
love it. I still
yes,
have the competition in my heart. But me as a grown woman, I have more to express. I have more to teach. I have more gems to drop for the younger women in the industry. And I feel it's my responsibility to do that with this third effort. So all of that combined together is what Voodoo Child would be. It'd be just the mystery and the magic, and just me releasing all of my inhibitions and my apprehensions and being completely the artist that I want to be, that I've always dreamed of being, without anything being pushed on me or saying this is what they want and this is who you should be. I just want to give myself completely. If you like it, if you love it, thank you. If you don't, it's fine. You know what I mean? Go and find what you like. We don't have to be negative. We don't have to say mean things. Just go where
right.
you like, because I have plenty of people who appreciate me.
Well, when I posted the flyer about you coming on the series today, I mean, people was just like, my phone was like ding, 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 ding.
Really?
Oh my
I still
God,
love
yes.
it. I still love
So,
it. I still love
there
it.
there are definitely, fans from then who have grown, have been growing as well, and very interested to hear what else he's got coming. So with the project, I love you use the word independent. You develop your own independence, and so the Shawnna today is a little bit different from the Shawnna of the past in terms of your decision making. So you're
Yes.
calling the shots here. So talk about like some of the people that you wanted to work with on the project and who you pulled that together.
Oh, it's awesome. Right now, like I'm working on getting a feature with Lady Lee Shore out of
Hmm.
UK. She is incredible. She reminds me so much of the old me. Just not afraid of anything, not afraid to
Okay,
just be silly,
fearless.
not afraid to just try new things and just be herself. And a lot of times that they make women get caught up on the beauty aspect of it and how you look and your shape and your body and your butt and your hair and your lashes and all that. And it takes you away from your creativity because you're like, well, I can't come out right now because I don't look right. You know what I mean? And the men don't have to deal with that. They go get a quick line and put a ball cap on and it's let's go, you know?
Right.
And I'm glad, I'm happy to be okay with that and knowing that I don't have to live up to that standard. I don't. I can just be the artist that I am. And I know there are people that are out there that'll just appreciate that. And they want that. Not every woman wants to be sexual all the time. Not every woman wants to twerk. Not every woman wants to have all the men desire her all the time. Sometimes we just want to be ourselves. Sometimes we just want to talk about what we go through in everyday life. Sometimes we just want to vent and release and talk about just our daily, you know, activities and have nothing to do with turning somebody on or looking at my assets,
Right.
so to speak. So it's just fun to be able to play with that now on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's a few producers in here, or aspiring producers. You know, talk about the production on the album. How did you approach the production on the project?
Honestly, I like to work with up and coming producers. I feel like some of the producers who have kind of gained their success and their and people know who they are will kind of just, you know, leisurely just give you a beat because they know it's them and it's gonna go because they got their tag on it and they already have that momentum behind their sound. I see with the younger artists that are still kind of just trying to get in and make a name for themselves, it's more passion in it. And it's more drive behind the music. And that kind of motivates me to go back into that beginning artist that I was before I was exposed to some of the ugliness and some of the business side of the industry. When I was just able to be free and just this artist and just be creative and just crazy. And it feels good to work with people that have not been exposed to that or don't have that comfortability where they're just like, okay, whatever, just do it. I got so many other artists that are requesting beats. Here, take this. I'm too busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So
So
with this project, that's what I did. I kind of reached out to the younger, the
just let
producers were not so seasoned.
Yeah, I love that. You know, because I think too, you know, when I talk to artists, I'm always like, you don't always have to be what's now. What about being what's next? And sometimes
Yes.
if you'll take a left turn or
Hmm.
try work with some people that may be lesser known, you know,
Yeah.
you do sort of luck up and come into like that what's next vibe, and you
Yeah.
can create, you know, an entire sort of new movement about that. So, so
Yes,
what
absolutely.
so what's the plan for the project? So you mentioned your daughter, like college. That's amazing. Are your kids excited about it? I mean, that's pretty cool. You
I'm
know,
kind of like my dad. When I come home, I'm just mom. I'm
I
not
love it.
like, yo, y'all, listen to this. Check this out. What y'all think? Sometimes I will, excuse me. And sometimes they'll just walk in the room like, Mom, what you writing right now? That's it. You know what I mean? Because I'll be loud in the room doing my thing. And they're just like, Mom, that's it. I like that. Or my little 9-year-old, she's 10 now, excuse me. She'll start dancing like, Mommy, I really like that. I want to hear that on TikTok or something. But other than that, I don't kind of, when I'm at home, I'm just mom, you know, because I don't want them to feel pressured or like, you know, I just want them to know that they have me 100%.
So how are you going to, because the world is different from the last time you put out an album, what's
Hmm.
going to be your approach to putting this album out as opposed to prior?
Terry, that is the question of the day every day because you know this
Okay,
just happened. This just hit us. My team, shout out to Court, shout out to Gino.
of
We had
course.
been planning on releasing this project this summer, getting out there doing the radio promo. We had been setting up the budget for the promo tour, setting up dates to come out to spots and perform and just be with the people and get the feedback and get the music out there. But of course, that's not an option now. Now
Yeah.
everything is going into this virtual world of promotion and performing. So we're just trying to put it together and figure it out. I think Gino and I talked about yesterday, just maybe releasing a mixtape right now because of the anticipation. I don't want to lose the momentum, but at the same time, I don't want to release an album and I can't get out there and be with the people with it because that's the type of artist that I am. I want to come
Sure.
out and be amongst you and perform it and let you see me and let you feel it, feel the energy from me. And with me not being able to do that, it's kind of scary because I feel like I'm doing myself an injustice because that's who I am. You know, I
Yeah.
love the performance aspect of it. It's not just, hey, put this music out, you better go get it because it's me. I like to connect with the people. So a
Yeah.
lot of we just figuring it out, just like everybody else. This has hit us all, and we are all adjusting. Like you said, this 2 years ago, you couldn't have paid me to believe that I would have to have this discussion with you on Instagram Live, and rather not in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we are all
Yeah.
trying to figure it out and adjust. And as a team, we are trying to make sure we just make our next move the best move.
Right. I do think that for you, your energy is one of your superpowers. I
Thank you.
think that you can still do it in this time. It is going to be, it will cause you to go into some spaces, your sort of untried spaces for you. But
Mhm.
I believe that your energy will cut through that.
Thank you
So,
so
you know,
much. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
just your heart, and then for really what you want to say, it
Mhm.
needs to be heard. So yeah, you got a good team. So I have
Yes,
all faith and confidence
absolutely. Yeah, they've been
that,
working their asses off. Excuse
yeah,
my language, but it's been
that's
amazing because at first, when it first happened, it was like shut down. Everybody was shut down. Oh my God, what do I do? Especially for artists. Because it looks like not anytime soon will any venues be opening, any performances be happening, and that everything's going to be virtual. So we just have to figure it out and make it make sense because it takes money to make money.
no doubt.
Yeah.
Even it's funny, total off subject, but of course we've all been doing church service, whatever, online. And so when they have like the supersized screen and the entire choir, everybody's at their house and they're all in harmony, I'm sitting there blown away because it's really magical. And,
It is.
but I'm like, how do they really pull that together? And it sounds so good. So I think that's one of the benefits of technology, that something special can be created there
Absolutely.
if you have the talent to back it up.
Yes.
I think talent always matters. I think, sure, it's a superficial world, and there are some people that will look up because the stars and the moon align, and you had the right song with the catchy hook, with the little dance,
Yes.
and you're going to have your moment. And I think that's beautiful for people to have a moment. But having a career is a lot different. That's more like, it's not the sprint, that's the marathon.
Yes.
Being able to get in there. And if you've ever run a marathon, it's like that mental process that you go through. Some moments you're feeling really good about it and you're catching good speed. Other moments you're saying, oh, please, God, I just want to stop. But your heart and your soul doesn't let you do that. And I think,
Oh God.
for
You saying
you,
a
like,
word right now, girl. You saying a word.
you're a woman who has a career. This is not, this is a career. And so, I think that's really beautiful and special,
Thank you
honestly.
so much. I
So
appreciate you saying that.
we're about to wrap up. Any parting words of wisdom for sort of the up and coming people here that are wanting to get in the game?
Yes. I always say, keep in mind that everybody can't go. And when I say that, I'm kind of piggybacking on what I said about building your team. Make sure that you keep people around you that are experienced and knowledgeable of the business. Don't just take your friend because you want to see them eat too, because you're going to end up holding yourself back. You need at the pace that this industry moves, you need people who have been there and done that to get you to where you need to be. I think that women are really making more of a stand in the industry right now. And as long as we stick together and support each other and not allow them to pin us against each other, we can and will create more opportunities for ourselves. I'm still looking forward whenever we open back up, and whether it may be virtual. I feel like an all-women tour would just be one of the most amazing things in the history of hip hop. And I'm still excited to be a part of that. Hopefully it'll happen while I'm still doing my thing. But if it doesn't, I just want to be blessed here to be able to see it. And I know that, to everybody out there, I know that we are in a dark time right now, but I need you to use your light and figure it out and make a way for yourself. Be intuitive and think and beyond the box, and go outside and think beyond the envelope, and be creative in whatever it is that you do in life, and just be positive. Just put positive energy into the world, and it will come back to you. It may not come back when you want it, but it will come back to you.
Yes, yes, and yes. I believe that with all my heart and soul.
Yes.
I think there's great opportunity. I think in some of the darkest times, there's been some of the most incredible opportunities that have been created if we're just willing to find the opportunity in the obstacle. That is really,
Absolutely.
Yeah, necessary. So listen, Shawnna, you're amazing. Where can
Thank you so
people,
much for your
I mean,
time.
I've got you tagged down here on the Instagram, but,
Yes.
you know, is it best for people to follow you there? You know,
Yes, it
to
is.
keep the
Honestly,
movement?
yeah, because I joked about this on an interview last night. I just don't have the time or the energy to keep up with so many different social
Mhm.
sites. I got other hats I'm wearing right now, and I have to focus on that. And it's just like you
Well,
said,
that's
you
why
got
you
to
have Court and Gino. They're building
yeah,
that.
thank God. So all my stuff is facilitated at Shawnna Worldwide. That's where you can find me, where I'm letting you know what's going on with my music, what's going on with me, just personally, just on there, just kind of getting feedback. A lot of times I go live and I share my platform with up and coming artists. I allow them to rap, sing, recite poetry, whatever it is they do, because a lot of times I do get some important people in the industry that chime in on there, and you can
Absolutely.
get some exposure. And yeah, that's what I like to do. You know, while I'm working on myself, I also like to share my blessing and my platform for those who are trying to do the same thing and kind of reach the levels of success that I've been blessed to attain.
I love it. Well, listen, we look forward to hearing the project, whatever's coming,
Thank you
and
so much.
look forward to giving you a real hug whenever that time will
Yes, and in the meantime,
come.
we have virtual hugs. Virtual hugs to
Virtual hugs.
everybody. Thank you to everybody who chimed in this morning. I know it's early. You know, we had to get the machine kind of cranking really early, but like we said in the beginning, the early bird gets the worm. In the industry, it is about that getting up, catching that 5 a.m. flight, and getting to New
Yep.
York and getting to LA or Atlanta, right in the thick of things. You got to grab that cup of coffee and go, baby. You got to get to it. You got to get to it.
All right. That's the mic drop right there. Shawnna, thank you so much. You're
Thank
such
you
a
so
blessing.
much for having me, Terry. It's been a pleasure. Wonderful conversation. Very, very, the questions I love. You know, a lot of times they'll start asking stuff that, whatever. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm a fan, so I come
Thank
from that
you.
perspective. I come from the love. So
And
have a
so am
wonderful
I.
day.
Congratulations and blessings on all of your endeavors. And I hope to
Oh,
talk
thank
to
you
you
so much.
soon.
All right. Take care. Be well.
You as well. Thank you. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye, Box family. Have a marvelous day. Gonna post this on the IGTV right now. So if you missed part, you can go back and check it out. Have a great day.
Perfect. You too, sweetheart. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.